Hello, I'm Mike Howerton, father of a multi-ethnic family. All my kids are in your schools. We've had an overwhelmingly positive experience in Northshore for the last 11 years, and in 3 minutes I can't express my gratitude enough for all those in the district who have poured into the life of my kids. There have been 3 instances where we've had to confront racism directly targeting our son. In 2 of the 3 instances, the teachers and administrators were quickly with us and parents of the other children involved to reach an immediate end to the racially motivated behavior and words, which resulted in an apology and complete reconciliation. I know this is possible. I have seen it. In the 3rd instance, this did not happen, and it was unsettling to realize that the other family involved was comfortable communicating racist stereotypes without any apology whatsoever. We sought to connect and reconcile, but have been rebuffed. Racial incidents do occur at our schools. Some percentage of these are dealt with correctly, according to the policy Northshore has written, and end up bringing education and reconciliation, and some percentage are not. We can argue about the exact percentage per school, but no one can argue that racial bias still exists. We all know that it does, even in our schools. And nobody, save the most ignorant, want it to persist. What I'm advocating for is to reward principals, teachers, and administrators for educating toward equity, calling racist comments or jokes out, and addressing it seriously when they see it. I know that there is a policy currently in place, but there must be some other unwritten policy which pressures principals to deny that racism takes place at all on their campus, or to deny that threats against students take place. In the recent instance at Timbercrest, both have been well documented. I've read the screenshots, and so has the middle school administration, as well as the policy. African American students at Timbercrest have singularly been targeted with all sorts of racial slurs, being called ape men and subhuman. African American students have been the target of death threats, from lynching to being shot to being stabbed. This is documented. And yet the emails sent last week to parents downplayed this reality. Friday the 22nd, the administration of Timbercrest essentially denied that any sort of racial threat has occurred to the parents of the threatened student. You can see why this is so upsetting. I can only imagine that if principals were rewarded for taking these things seriously, this principal's response would have been different. Instead of denying what has been documented, he would have been free to be on the side of leadership toward a better day. I believe this. I have to believe that all of us want to be part of leading Northshore into a better day. Denying this issue exists will never get us there. Bellevue School has an equity department, and I'm advocating that Northshore look into one that reports directly to the board. And threats against any student need to be taken with utmost seriousness. I'm advocating that a threat assessment team be developed. Until all of our students feel safe, none of our students can feel safe. Let's take action to make things better. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, can I get a clarification on that? You were advocating, some of us up here don't remember what the first item was. I'm sorry, I got the threat assessment team. You were, right before that, you said...
An equity board, equity department.
Sorry, I was trying very hard to adhere to 3 minutes, but the microphone issue threw me off just a bit. There's an equity department at Bellevue School District, and I'm advocating that there's one for Northshore School District that reports directly to the board. I think that it would be wise to have a threat assessment team or a threat assessment committee that evaluates threats to our students. And I thank you for your service.
Thank you.
All right. Hello, Northshore School Board members and superintendent. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Mason Coe, and this is my baseball team, the Northwest Bandits. We are friends and teammates of a student at Timbercrest Junior High, who, as you know, has been the victim of serious bullying and racism. I'm also a proud former Northshore School District student. One of the things that I learned on day one of kindergarten at Kokanee Elementary was to treat all students with respect, regardless of their size, shape, or race. I am disappointed in the change in values that student has witnessed in the Northshore School District. I apologize. As school board members, you have the job to make sure that there are clear protocols for investigating and dealing with racism threats in your schools. I am not here to criticize what has happened in the past, but I'm asking you to look forward to the changes that you can make in the future. I believe that there should be a system of support for victims of racism, violent threats, and bullying. I understand students who make threats to themselves and others should be held accountable, yet also given help. I believe there could be a better effort to provide these services to all students in the Northshore School District. The Healthy Youth Survey done by OSBI in 2014 shows an increase in bullying in Snohomish County. 1 in 3 8th graders surveyed reported being bullied. I find this stat unacceptable, and I think that you guys can help reduce that number. Please consider whether the Northshore School District and its staff is doing everything it can do to provide a safe and supportive atmosphere for students of all colors. The reason I'm speaking tonight is that my friend and teammate felt scared and alone. He was afraid to go to school, which should be a safe haven of learning with caring staff members to help him feel supported. My teammates and I are here to show him that he is not alone, and that he will never be alone. Thank you.
I'm Diego Toronto. I also live in Los Angeles, and I am a teammate of bullying receiver, and I heard about the hard times, and he's just who he is, and he can't change who he is. So whatever he's doing and getting received for is obviously unacceptable. And I know being a school board member, you guys know that, and I feel like you guys should maybe handle this situation a little more hard and not as leaning to the student, saying that he should maybe not have as many chances as he did. And no one should have to go through what he's gone through, feeling alone and by himself. Everyone should have equal rights and opportunities with everyone, especially within school, because school creates opportunities for everyone and gives everyone an equal opportunity to have success in the world. One of my brothers, he was getting bullied because of his skin color, and he can't change it. He likes who he is, and have someone changing who he wants to be is obviously unacceptable. Nothing should ever have someone go through that pain. He's a human like every one of us, and we all have feelings. And he had very hard feelings, very tough times. And I've seen him, never seen him this bad. He's always laughing, happy, smiling, making jokes, having fun, being who he is, being a kid, playing baseball. That's what I mean. But he's changed in the past couple of weeks, and I'm not we haven't noticed this significantly, but it's just little changes that he would say stuff like just jokes and comments and stuff. But he has freedom next to everyone, and others are too requested to feel safe and have respect towards him. And the color of skin does not define who we are. Our character and morals are values. Thank you.
It's Dominic Red. Hello, thank you for letting me speak tonight. I'm part of the Bandits organization as well as all these people. What has happened to my teammate is unacceptable. As well as unacceptable, it should not be taken lightly. Racism should have perished decades ago. I won't stand by and watch my teammate be criticized by the color of his skin. The school board hasn't done their part to stop this problem. My teammates are my family, and I can't let my family be hurt like this. My hope from the speech is to make people aware of the problem at hand. The fact of the matter is that what has been done to protect my teammate is not nearly enough. I hope that the school board will realize this. Although I understand that the boy that made these threats might need some help, he has no excuse. Justice must be served. This problem has to stop now. That is all.
My name is Gordon Mitchell. I have a firm in Woodinville that does investigative work and technical work. Our job is looking inside of computers and networks to try to determine what's happening. And frequently that turns out to be what's happening in the case of getting information for threat assessments. They've gone well, in some cases they haven't. I can remember a murder case that really started as just an assault case. This is serious stuff. I'd like to give you some insights into it. I'm not a threat manager, but I work as part of organizations that do security work, computer security work, forensic investigating, and also threat assessment. I gotta say thanks though first, because I've got a family here. We've been here for 32 years in the Northshore School District. And our son is first class. You know that. First class means he was the first class of graduates from Woodinville High School. It served him well. He's a nationally credentialed teacher teaching in the Seattle area in an alternative school, a public school. He's a great guy. We've got a daughter that came through the same school system. She has a PhD in the mathematics of genetics as an internationally recognized researcher. I have another daughter also, and she followed her time at Leota and Woodinville High School as a pediatrician. Yahoo! You guys are great. I'd like to talk for a moment and give you some opinions on the current situation. It's certainly what people have mentioned before, a bullying situation or something that didn't go right or so on. But for just a moment, forget those. They're important and they're causes for things. What we're talking about now is just a plain old out-and-out death threat. Actually several of them, and that has to be dealt with. And it can't be dealt with by a simplistic approach. In any sort of situation like this, you have to take a view of what's important. For example, look back at your minutes from the last meeting. They completely ignored the important stuff and brought out the mundane stuff. In this case, what I presume is that you know that people do threat assessments. In other words, they think through the entire process. They think of what motives are, what kind of communications there's been, not just the threat communications, but many others. Frequently, we see people finding out things by looking at computers, but there's many other ways. There are considerations like what weapons are involved, what access to weapons are there. Oh my goodness, I've gone over my 3 minutes already.
So if you have written comments, you are welcome to give them to our recording secretary, and we read everything that we are given. So
I'll do that. I would say one thing though, that any party, either the victim or the person who did the threats or the school, can wreck the whole process. Everybody working together is what you need, and today is the day to start.
Can I ask you to use the handheld mic? Yeah.
On?
Yes.
Okay. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit. When my son was tormented with racism in the 6th grade out of school in this district, I thought it was some kind of anomaly. I was sure that when I spoke to the school officials, it would be dealt with and the racist bullying would stop. Unfortunately, this didn't happen. Instead, we were asked by a school official, well, I wonder what your child did to provoke such a response. To which we assured him that what provoked the racist bullying was that our son was born black. We were also told that this really wasn't a racist issue, even though he was called the N-word and told he wasn't liked because he was black. We then were sure the district would handle this since the local school didn't, but they didn't either. Well, we were sure this was an unusual event in this extremely educated and enlightened community. Until again, my son was the victim of racism at Timbercrest Junior High. This time, it was in the form of death threats by another junior high student. Again, we went to the local school and then the district. Again, we were told this was not a racist issue. We have never been so surprised or dismayed by the actions of a school and a district. So again, we've had to pull our son out of school for his own physical and emotional safety. Since going public with this experience, we've heard from multiple parents who have told us of bullying situations where the school and the district refused to acknowledge the problem and refused to help their child as well. I wanted to share some of their comments that they've sent to me since they couldn't be here. This is a quote from someone that wrote me. In the past, I had filed charges against a student for bullying and gone directly to the school superintendent. Sadly, I have seen the same school administrator that is so staunchly against bullying in public make the comment that our student deserved it. Here's another quote someone sent me. We gave up on the school district providing a safe environment for our son, and we just pulled him out. I've heard that from multiple people. Again, these are actual quotes from families in the Northshore School District who feel the district has failed to protect their children. This one says, "We struggled constantly with the school district. We had to bring a lawyer in, and they made the bully the priority. We finally took it completely out of the district's hands and contacted the sheriff's office." There's another one. "When my complaints went unanswered for many years, and I saw other people's situations similar, and some were even worse and were handled worse by the district, I chose to send my son on another path through another district." And here's a comment I just received. "I had a mom the other night at baseball saying her son and another was being harassed and having racist comments made to them at Canyon Park Junior High. Another parent was there mentioning how racist students are to her child at Canyon Park as well. The lack of action doesn't surprise me on the school or the district side of things." Can I finish her quote? "Since they treat kids with learning disabilities the same way. I think the district mantra is to bully you back or string you along until your student is out of their school and then there's someone else's problem. Please just listen to the voices of these parents from this district because we believe no child is safe until every child is safe." Thank you.
Hello. Okay, my name is Diana Pavick, and I don't really have anything prepared tonight, but I'm just here because my son is on the Bandits team, and all of his team and the parents on this team feel very strongly to support our team member and the parents that we know and love. In this case, where their son has been bullied and had racist death threats against him. We feel so strongly that there's no place in any school district in Washington State for such a threat, and we hope that you will take some action against that. Thank you.
Thank you for your time and consideration of my concerns regarding recent events at the local junior high. My name is Ann Alisi Khan. I'm a Northshore school parent. I currently have one child in 2nd grade, as well as a Northshore graduate that attended junior high and high school in this district. There are many elements of the recent events that cause me great concern and dismay. I'm going to focus my limited time on my concern for the lack of safety protocol. I have erroneously assumed that in the event of death threats, written plans to bring guns to school, and overtly racist sentiment against children at school, that there would be immediate action taken to protect not only the students being threatened, but for all of the other students as well, the staff, the volunteers on the campus. Further, I am also concerned that the lack of responsibility for caring for the student that was making the threats. I have witnessed a very disturbing lack of communication, failure to act, and lack of responsibility by not only the school leadership, but at a district level. Please advise why immediate action was not taken when such a seriously dangerous situation occurred. And please outline what the exact policy is when there is a death threat. As a parent, I absolutely want to be informed and be confident in the protocol that each student is mandated to follow. Further, this has been a very challenging conversation to have with my 8-year-old son. I want to know that the district is going to make every school in the district a safe place that does not tolerate racial harassment and violence towards students by anyone. Finally, please remember that no child is safe unless every child is safe. Thank you.
I guess it's on. Well, I'm a mother of one of the African American boys that was referenced in the death threats. I have a son that graduated from Northshore School District. I have 2 other boys, one at the high school and one at Timbercrest. My comments this evening regarding the death threats fueled by racism that were directed toward my son and other African American students. Well, first of all, it's important to understand that none of my boys have ever been expelled from school, have ever been suspended, have ever been involved in fights. And I have to say this because, of course, when you see people like me, sometimes the story is different. And second, it is important to also understand that these events were not provoked or initiated first by my son, but rather the other student that made the death threats, evidenced by documented jealousy and so-called curiosity concerning the genetic makeup of African Americans. The first reporting date that I submitted to the school was April 24th. This child referenced my son that he did not count as human, that he was subhuman, and that the only reason my son was good in sports is because he is black and he has extra muscles and extra bones. He further wrote, "I wish you would go and get hung by the KKK." He continues writing, "There are no black humans at our school, and they should move to the jungle where they belong." He wrote, "I wish I didn't have to deal with the 3 ape men," which of course there's 3 black boys at the school. He continued with the death threats, writing and commenting that, "I'm gonna shoot up the school," and I reported this to the school May 4th. I have documentation and confirmation. "I am going to come back and kill them with knives, then kill myself." He wrote, "I have absolutely no reason to live anymore." He, referring to my son, is used to everyone liking him and being the best at basketball, and he thinks he is superior to me, but he won't for long. Tomorrow he enters hell. He verbally said he was going to stab him and join the KKK, evidence and documented also as well. Students heard this as he was walking away in the cafeteria. Then one of his friends was approached and said, "How do you feel that all of your friends will be dead?" Now, I am pleading with the board to do something. This is ridiculous. I've been highly disappointed in the way that this has been handled. I grew up black, so I know how this works. I know that my voice is not really heard ever. That's the reason why I handle things the way I handle them. I try to go fast and sharp, document the information, submit it so that I am helped. But in this case, I was told that this boy was cleared, that there was nothing wrong with him, and the student would be returned back to the school. So as a mother, and you can understand as my husband is not here right now because he had another engagement that he could not get out of, that he had to attend. You can imagine how many sleepless nights we've had. And you can also imagine how irritating it is when I stand here and look before you, and as you drink your drink there very calmly, you can imagine how irritated I am because I'm the one that's staying up at night when there's no action on the board, when there's no action at the school. And I am highly disappointed, and I hope and pray that you guys will please work with us and that you will come with a solution to make sure that we are having some type of training that is being done for the administrations, teachers alike. There's problems here. And this has been an amazing experience. I've lived in 3 different states, and this has been an amazing one, amazing journey. Thank you.
That is a tough act to follow. Thank you, Angela. I do want to say, even though it's not in my written remarks, that our school district would be so much better off if we had hundreds of families move into our district like the Youngs. They are phenomenal. My name is Michelle Wright. I'm the mother of the 3rd boy involved in this incident. We in our family have been blessed to adopt and raise 2 children of multi-ethnicities, as well as our own biological daughter, which has been a very exciting and great experience for most of our family's lives. We have attempted during this whole time to be part of the process of bridging the racial divide and have hopes of helping others rise above this as well. It was easier to see when they were little and simply adorable how everyone just loved them. Now that my son is 14, I still see adorable. That's not always what others see. You're familiar, obviously, with the situation in question. In today's climate of increasingly common racial and school violence, you would think that someone would have sounded the alarm and proper authorities would have been called to investigate. Consequences would follow. There would be recognition of wrongdoing, restitution for pain caused to people just because of the color of skin that they are born with. Instead, my son and his friends were dealt a double blow. First, having to face the fact that someone wants to kill you, being a 14-year-old boy. Then having the offender, someone he doesn't even really know, turn the tables and accuse these boys of bullying. He has no disciplinary history, no infractions on his record. He is not a bully and has never been in trouble. He receives unsolicited letters of praise from his teachers for being a great example and helpful to others. He's recently earned his Eagle Scout Award, performed a service project involving over 20 people and more than 200 hours of service for the city of Woodinville. He is an outstanding student and does not deserve this kind of treatment, tarnishment on his reputation and his heart and his personality. He is also growing up in the world, still riddled with racism. In the last year, he has experienced several unsolicited racial experiences, called the N-word, which is just sort of a common thing, sent strings of texts that were 50 to 100 texts from the same person, filled with every vile expression and word that you can imagine. His mother had no idea where he learned that language. The population within Northshore School District is less than 1% black, which according to leadership expert James Whitfield means we are fighting the apathy of the majority, fighting the apathy of the majority. I will conclude my remarks because I know I need to, but school is a place that is supposed to be safe. We should be able to 100% guarantee these children when they walk out of our homes in the morning that the place they're supposed to be going is going to welcome them with open arms and take care of them. This school needs a better system to handle incidents like this and keep them from becoming tragedies.
My name is Jason Wright, and I'm the father of two African Americans that are in your school district, one at Woodinville High School, and of course my son, who was 14, at Timbercrest. I was horrified to learn while I was out of town, recently on a vacation, that my son's life had been threatened by another student who was stated that he had nothing to live for and that he would kill them with knives and then kill himself too. These death threats were not properly handled with the sense of urgency and priority that they warranted. While there are no documented policies regarding death threats in the school district policies and procedures, lesser offenses like intimidation and harassment have very particular procedures. What is written is that if there is potential for clear and immediate physical harm, the district will immediately contact law enforcement, procedure 3207. Unbelievably, no one in the school or district has, to our knowledge, contacted the police. We cannot be blind to these events. The perpetrator made up retaliatory accusations of bullying to take the attention off himself. His claim immediately resulted in a call for the district to hire an outside investigation of the 3 victims many weeks later. That this is handled as a higher priority than the death threat sickens me. Even if these false claims were true, it does not justify a threat of death. School officials did not take these threats seriously. Their inaction jeopardized the students of the safety of all students, not just the African American kids mentioned in the threat. Failure to adhere to school board policy is unacceptable. Then there is the concern of others included in group texts. Have they been identified to determine if they are a threat? They did not come forward to report what has happened, and nothing has been done to contact them. My son was threatened because of the color of his skin, and not enough was done to protect his safety. He hardly even knows the young man who has leveled this charge of bullying him, has rarely interacted with him, and has no past incident with him. It will be interesting to see if the district applies its anti-retaliatory policy with an even hand or with racial bias. The system is broken and we need to fix it. There must be a policy created with specific language around this terrible offense of threatening death or suicide. And threat assessment must be administered by a qualified professional. One only has to look 30 miles down the road to Marysville to see what these kinds of threats are increasingly more often and having deadly consequences. Let's not put Woodinville on the map. No child is safe until every child is safe.
Connor O'Donnell, I'm the boys coach. I'm just here to support them. Sorry, I didn't have anything ready for this, and I would do anything for them on the field, and I just want them to know I would do anything for them off the field. I think it's ridiculous that I have to be here to support him right now, and that nothing has been done. That's all I got, sorry.
Hello, I'm Derek Hamer, and I'm a sophomore at Woodinville High School. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak. You know, every day I go to school and expect to get probably up to 10 words or jokes about fried chicken and Kool-Aid. You know, on the field, I've gone the N-word, and at school also. People think I'm good at sports just because of my skin color. Back in sixth grade, it was tough to watch my brother be called the N-word, and for the district just to watch. I sat there and I was thinking, you know, this is just a mistake. Surely something is going to be done. Nothing was done. Now that the racist bullying has happened again, I sat there thinking, all right, this time surely they'll come through and do something about it. Still, nothing has been done. Then when the death threats were given, I sat there, watched my brother just totally scared and sad. And I just didn't know what to do. I thought, oh no, the district surely is going to do something about it. But no. Instead, what we got was blame on the real victims, saying that, oh, surely they're the ones that caused this. They're the ones that bullied him first, which I don't think they did, but if they had bullied him, that's still not justified. I've always said it's never okay when racism happens to anyone, but when it happens to your own brother, there's frustration that just builds to a new level. Like, it's one thing when I constantly get called the N-word by kids thinking, oh, Derek, you're fine with it, blah, 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 even though I've told them countless of times, no, it's not okay, it's not cool, just please stop. No, every day I get called that maybe up to 5 times a day. My hope is that this board will finally do something about this. Because it's not just for the now, we don't want, we want it to stop now, but I'm more worried for the future black kids, or just really future anyone else who has targeting or racial slurs thrown at them. There's got to be something done to stop that. My hope also is that tonight as you go to bed, you roll over in your sleep and think, man, we really screwed up. We really messed up. I think we've kind of got this thought that, hey, just because we're not Ferguson, just because we're not Florida, that there's no racism going on, but there's clear racism. You can ask my black friends that I go to Woodville with, there's racism every day there. And again, no child is safe until every child is safe. Thank you.
I wanted to tell my story. I have 2 kids in the Northshore School District. One's a sophomore at Woodinville, and one is 6th grade at Woodin Elementary. My son went to Timbercrest, and in the middle of 8th grade, we pulled him out of Timbercrest due to, my husband's Mexican, so they're mixed. And he was having people say, you know, my dad's got a new lawnmower, come on my lawn, taco, Mexican, just all the time. So I pulled him out to Timbercrest, and I just wanted to tell my story that if this was 3 years ago, something needs to be done.
My name's Chan Kelly Ray. Yes. Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent, principal, directors, parents, and concerned friends. I'm an 11-year resident of Bothell. My 2 sons attended Northshore Elementary School for the 2013-14 school year for 2nd and 4th grades. My husband and I opted to not continue with the district because we grew frustrated with having to defend whether or not our 2nd grader was academically challenged or gifted and bored. He came home every day from his very first week of school crying because he was convinced that, in his words, his teacher hated him because she was forcing him to read baby books. She regularly suggested that he could read at a high level, but she questioned whether or not he could understand. He was tested and assessed the previous spring in their private schools, and it was determined that he was gifted. In November of his year with the Northshore District, he was independently tested or assessed by a third-party licensed psychologist that administered a full-scale Wechsler IQ test that confirmed his academic abilities and placed him in the 98th percentile for every student of his age in the entire Puget Sound region both public and private. So for the remainder of the year, whenever I met with his teacher, she required the principal be present for every conference and every check-in conversation, because apparently I'm an angry black woman. And I can assure you that as the subject matter expert in diversity, inclusion, and equity for the state of Washington, as the advisor to Governor Inslee, I've never been called an angry black woman. I will offer you in my professional assessment that the district has a challenge in the areas of both inclusion and cultural competency. I think that that's an issue that has to be addressed. You're off to a good start having all of these stakeholders in the room. There has to be transparency, there has to be accountability, and you have to leverage the stakeholder relationship with the folks that are in the room today, because no child is safe until all children are safe.
Hello. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the school board. Thank you for your time. My name is Angelina Denver, and I have twin African American daughters that are in 7th grade this year, and they started the school year at one of the schools in Northshore School District. They are currently homeschooled, however. One of my daughters has quite a bit of anxiety and low IQ, and spent much of her day in special education classrooms. She had a pretty rough transition to middle school. The lunchroom was big and noisy. Changing classes was hard, and learning where to go for each subject was pretty difficult for her. It was made even more difficult, unfortunately, when another older student acted as if my daughter were a friend, and instead she wanted to control my daughter, asking my daughter to do things that went against her moral code so they could stay friends. And when we found out, we asked our daughter to stay away from this new friend. This made the new friend upset, and she acted out physically toward the daughter. The new friend even grabbed my daughter at school, trying to force her to do what she wanted when she wanted. Astoundingly, our school was under the impression that our daughter was fine. Teachers thought that she might have been upset about science or having to negotiate the schoolroom, the lunchroom, and they were completely unaware of what was going on. We finally pieced it together, and the administrators, having never read our daughter's IEP, unaware of her needs or even the level of her understanding, made our daughter feel like she had done something wrong. She grew to fear school, and she could not be persuaded that it was a safe place. Our daughter was placed under psychiatric care, and per her therapist's recommendations, she even needed a serious medication to stop horrible nightmares that included wanting to harm herself and others. As this school year has come to a close, I asked my daughter if she would like to return to her old school. Her answer really didn't surprise me. It was, "No, Mom, I don't feel safe there." This is not what I want for her or any child in Northshore School District. No child is safe until every child is safe.
You're pretty close. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm here because I'm a parent. I'm Beth Salagento. I'm a 25-year resident of Northshore School District, and I'm here to support the Timbercrest parents. I know some of them that go to that school. If I was in the same situation, I think they'd be here to support me too. I'm a mother of 2 multiracial girls within the district. They've experienced racism throughout the years. I want it on record that I'm appalled by the way Timbercrest handled this crisis, and I want to say crisis in quotation marks, because death threats equal no tolerance. And no tolerance equals any student who made those death threats should have been expelled from the school, and a 1-week suspension from the school should not have been tolerated at all. As a professional, the school should have called the police immediately, and I feared that this could have potentially turned into another Marysville shooting, and that they explore getting some outside intervention. You have started that, as we've heard tonight, but there needs to be additional swift action in preventing this issue from reoccurring, and to reassure us that our children are going to be safe within the schools so we can get back to education and our students learning. because no child is safe until every child is safe.
Good evening. I'm Carrie Bullock, mother of 5, and wife of 30 years to Scott Bullock, who is also the head coach of girls basketball at Woodinville High School. Our 3 oldest children began and ended their grade school education at Northshore School District and graduated from Woodinville High School and have been very successful in their colleges and careers since. And those who know us, hear us frequently give credit where credit is due, which is not to us as parents, but to the fine opportunities of academic excellence in Northshore School District and to the teachers and other staff members who work with them. Our 2 youngest are in 2nd and 4th grade at Bear Creek Elementary, slated to attend Timbercrest Junior High. On May 12th, I was informed of a series of verbal and social media messages from the mouth and mind of a Timbercrest student laced with strong racist language, including threats. Quoting one series, "There are no black humans at our school. I wish I didn't have to deal with the 3/8 men. I'm going to come back and kill them with knives, then kill myself." I understand that Timbercrest staff members and our administrators were informed of the threats and suicidal language. I don't understand why local law enforcement plus NSD security was not contacted immediately. Is it due to any Timbercrest or Northshore staff who are desensitized to bad habits of racial rhetoric? Is it due to absence of policy that speaks to zero tolerance for death threats in our schools? If so, why in 2004 did local law enforcement plus NSD security instantly arrive on Timbercrest campus after a nonspecific potential threat to student safety? It was reported by the principal, which resulted in a student being booked to King County Youth Center for help, where an investigation began right away. Parents of Timbercrest students received a letter on the same day from the principal, quote, "Because the safety of students and staff is our #1 priority, we took the threat seriously and thankfully it was resolved quickly. We appreciate the quick actions of the students and staff who reported the threat, as well as the rapid response of police," end quote. Adding to my view of inept risk management for all Timbercrest students in May of 2015, my voice comes for Northshore students of African descent. It is not only a privilege for them to study and learn with an academic excellence in Northshore schools, it is the district's privilege to have them as students. Communication, apology, and action that show you value their presence enough to fight for this small but beautiful piece of diversity within the demographics of Northshore School District. If you'd like my help with these goals, you can count on me. No child is safe until every child is safe.
Carrie Stewart, I am a former parent of Northshore School District kids. I am here with regard to the incident of bullying and racism at Timbercrest Junior High. I would like to talk to you about my personal experience as a parent and about racism in general. As a parent of a transgender youth, my experience of this same school was of my child being bullied and threatened by other students. Additionally, my child was bullied by a teacher. When my child told another teacher that he was being bullied, their response was something like, "I'm sorry, school is rough." In other words, too bad, so sad. Kids will be kids, suck it up. When my older son, who had medical issues, was bullied by a teacher at the same school, well, he was told that he can skip her class. That was the educational solution. When I read the policies and learned that I could demand some things, the principal said to me, "I could do that, but this teacher will not change, so I'm not going to." And my kid's babysitter was also a student from that same junior high. She was bullied at the school and she left the school district. Her parents pulled her out. And the end result for me was pulling out both of my children from the school district because they would not guarantee the safety of my children. And I did not have time to wait for the school to catch up with my children. My one child, who was transgender, was cutting and had tried to commit suicide. I had no more time. It was my house on fire. This is how systemic bullying happens and becomes a part of the system. Students, teachers, and principals have all, in the same, somewhat distant parents, because I'm kind of old, we have laid a foundation of looking the other way and treating diversities demand for equity, safety, and fairness as annoying. Even naming the communication from family members in public. If the school cannot discuss the investigation going on or the discipline involved, then they should not be able to discuss a specific parent's communication at all. How we use systemic privilege as educated people. Privilege is always going to be defined through convenience. It is inconvenient for those with privilege to have to change or to conform in order to acknowledge the full humanity of those minorities that have historically been denied access and power. As such, privilege will always view the change and required adjustment as an assault on their core being. From their position, it is illogical that the majority should change to accommodate the minority. Thus, privilege is often less about values and more about convenience. It is inconvenient to focus on racism when trying to look at all diversity issues, and yet it must be done. Rats.
I asked please to not, yeah.
Okay. It is inconvenient, and yet it must be done. For the same reason that Black Lives Matters exist rather than All Lives Matter, African Americans are more likely to be bullied than those of Western European descent. They are more likely to be suspended, and they are more likely to drop out of school. While All Lives Matter, there is a particular concern for Black Lives Matter because they pay the price for inept policies and attitudes of our system. Education, justice, healthcare, economic, and more. All life matters. Black Lives Matters. I know that the desire is for convenience to wait until we can discuss all diversities. I've seen that in writing. There is a special urgency around the values of racial equity that is a burning discussion raging across the nation. And trust me, as a mother of a transgender child, I do not wish to put the safety of anyone in the LGBTQIA* community on the back seat. But the truth is, the most vulnerable population we have is to be transgender and African American. If we can bring safety to African Americans, it will bring safety to all of my beloved LGBTQ friends. Bullying is not okay. A systemic response that treats the victim with less privilege than the offender is not okay. I'm reminded of President Lyndon Johnson's desire to have Martin Luther King Jr. He begged the President Johnson to send troops to Alabama, right? And President Johnson had his own agenda. He wanted to bring victory to the poor instead. But you know what? Lives were withering. And when lives are withering, you have to save them. It may seem like hyperbole, and it is, a little. Bullying does lead to suicide at a much higher rate. If our African American children are being bullied at higher rates, they are committing suicide at higher rates. Lives are at stake. Black Lives Matter. You have the opportunity to decide that you can wait until it is convenient to examine all diversities and the issues each has with the school system, or you can begin to act now to address an issue you know about now. Or you can wait. But it is dictated by the values of concern for those among us who are the most deeply wounded. Now, choose values, not convenience. Now is the time to create an equity board. Now is the time to create threat assessment teams. Now is the time to have meaningful in-school suspension systems that address root causes before death threats occur. Now is the time to have restorative practices that hears the voices of the victim. Now is the time, and it may not be convenient, but Northshore values demand it. No child is safe until every child is safe.
Yeah, thank you. Is this on? Okay. Yeah, my name's Derek Smith, and it's interesting here. I didn't know any of this stuff was going on with Timberlake, but it's interesting to me because I'm sensing a pattern here, and I see it's part of the culture. And to me, it looks like North Shore has an epidemic on their hands. So here's my story. I have an 8th grader who's been bullied, harassed, and threatened, and North Shore School District has not taken it serious. She goes to Canyon, she's an 8th grader at Canyon Park Junior High. I have 3 girls in the system. I have a high schooler, I have a junior high, and I have one in elementary school. And we've had a very good experience in the school district until this year, where I've been incredibly disappointed. May 4th, my daughter finally had enough courage to come up to me and tell me that she was being harassed. There was a boy in her class that was fake punching her, pretending to have a gun and a knife on several occasions, saying he was going to shoot her, but he forgot it at home that day. He threatened multiple times to kill my daughter, to kill another family, to commit suicide after he had killed all these people. Then the situation escalated on Monday, May 4th, when the boy came to school and actually told my daughter, hey, I'm not going to forget my knife tomorrow. I'm going to come to school and I'm going to stab you. And he showed her how he was going to stab her. Okay? Very, very, very specific. My daughter finally got so worked up that she brought it to our attention Monday night. Thank goodness that she had the courage to do that. We brought it to the school's attention. The police were, well, first the police were called. They came and took a statement from my daughter. They went to the boy's house that night, took a statement from him. Okay? Tuesday morning, I met with the vice principal. The principal didn't have the time for me. I don't know why. It seems pretty serious. But he didn't. I met with the vice principal. Okay? Tuesday, Bothell Police Department filed charges against this boy. This boy was suspended for a few days. I made it very clear that my expectations were that this boy be expelled from Canyon Park Junior High. Any reasonable parent would expect that. Any reasonable parent here. The boy was suspended for a few days, and then I get a call Thursday afternoon, come in and meet with us Friday, we're going to tell you what we're going to do. So I go in there Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock, and they tell me this boy's coming back to school Monday morning. What is a parent supposed to do with that? Do I want to send my kid to school where someone has been saying, I'm going to stab you like this? He actually told her, he says, I hope you have quick reflexes, because if you don't, you're going to get stabbed and die. Okay? My 3 daughters are what most would call model students. This particular girl has a 3.95 average. She's never been in trouble one single day since kindergarten. She's a good kid, and now she's frightened to come to school. So then what happens? So the boy's coming back to school, so I go in and I get a restraining order Monday morning. Okay? Obviously the city of Bothell took this serious. They filed charges. I had a Snohomish County judge offer and provide us with a 30-foot harassment restraining order against this boy. Went back to the school district, talked to the vice principal, talked to the principal, talked to the person in charge of school services, and they said it's not their problem, not the school district's problem. Flat out, not their problem. It's up to that boy to police himself to stay away from my daughter. I find that totally unacceptable. So I send my... Every day but one, that boy has violated the 30-foot restraining order. Okay? The teachers weren't even notified that this problem was going on. My sister, my daughter, because she missed class Monday, because I wouldn't send her until we got the restraining order, she goes in Tuesday morning to get help. The boy's in the classroom. She has to leave. Okay? We call the police comes to Canyon Park. The school district basically rolls over and does nothing. They have no spine. This is a horrible, horrible policy. And what I'm hearing today with Timberlake, this is like Christmas for me. Because I didn't know any of this was going on with all this racism. But I see now, you have an epidemic. This is a problem. My daughter is the victim here, and she does not feel safe at Canyon Park Junior High. She tells me she has dreams of this boy coming up in the dark behind her and stabbing her. My daughter has an autoimmune disease that is triggered by stress. And if any of you have had a daughter that has an autoimmune disease, you'll know what I'm talking about. We do whatever we can to minimize the stress for my kid. Canyon Park Junior High is not minimizing the stress. They're making it worse. I'm concerned about the safety of our students, and I'm concerned that our leaders have lost their effectiveness and are unwilling to make choices and discipline kids effectively. lot about no tolerance and no bullying policies. My personal experience with this is these are just words on paper. Worthless. Worthless. In my company, if I had an employee come to me and say he threatened to kill another employee, that employee would not be working for me any longer. But I was told that junior highs operate under a little different system than the real world. And that's by the administrators. I was told not to list names here. I want to list names, but I'm not going to. I'm going to hold back. I'm going to respect that. I asked the school board to review your policy on how lethal threats are handled, to hire administrators and leaders that reflect the desires of the parents of the district, and that actually take these sorts of things seriously. Quit penalizing the kids that are doing what they're supposed to be doing in school, and start holding the misguided kids accountable for their actions. Death threats should equal no tolerance. But apparently, in Northshore School District, death threats do not equal no tolerance. And you should be ashamed of that.
Hello, board. My name is Terry James. I'm a homeowner here in the Woodinville community. I've raised my family here for the past 10 years. I have 2 children who go to Woodin Elementary School. One is a 6th grader, one is a 3rd grader. I was deeply saddened as I got to learn a little more about the events that's been happening to the students. It saddens me because I feel as a father I have to do a better job of protecting my children. You know, we send our kids to school and we give them over to the teachers and the district to protect them. But when you hear students continually say that they're being bullied and there's no action being taken, that death threats occur and no action's being taken, that their lives to them don't matter. You know, it encourages me when I see and I look around the room and I see all these faces of different parents with families that go to school here, always supporting their other members, but at the same time, it also hurts me when I hear the board not taking any action. It makes me question whether I should continue to bring my children to school here because I fear for their safety. When I hear the students say constantly they get the N-word called on them every day, and you can empathize with your friends, you can empathize with them, but until you've experienced it directly, you don't know what that's like. You don't know how dehumanizing that is. You don't know what that does to a child's soul. You know, letting the other student back in and seeing someone who said, "I'm going to hang you," like you were part of the KKK, that you're 8 men. The effect that has on that person, on that child, can never be changed. I've had those things called. I've been pulled over by the police. I've had the N-word called on me countless times. As a father, you want to do better for your children. So you try to put them in a better community, you try to put them in a better area where you think the administration, the people in charge, are going to do better for them. Not today. Hopefully you guys are hearing the voices of not only the people that are sitting here in this crowd, but also the voices of the students, which are more important. Yes, all lives matter, they do. But the black students that are in these communities that are experiencing it, they have a different story. They have a different experience. They have a different reality than many other kids. And it's important for the improvement of all the students, their educational environment, to have their students' voices held and heard. And so they matter to the board to make changes, to make a difference. There should not even be a question of whether or not there should be a zero tolerance policy when you're talking about protecting the lives of not only those students, but every student around them. Because these boys here who are their friends could be caught in the crossfire. We've seen it happen across the country. What is it going to take for us to learn about that? This meeting could have been very different today because you let the student come back into school. And what if he had gone through on his actions? What if he had followed through? We'd be here mourning the loss of these beautiful souls and these beautiful lives. I can't let that happen to my children.
can't. You guys have got to do better. You've got to do more. Thank you.
Good evening, Board. My name is Tansy Miller. I'm a homeowner. I'm a taxpayer at the Northshore School District. This is my daughter. She is in the 7th grade at Northshore Junior High. And although it does pain me to hear the things that are happening at Timbercrest High School or Junior High School, I want you to know that similar events are happening at other schools in this particular district. At Northshore Junior High School, my daughter was in school sitting, one incident, she was sitting in school in the lunchroom. A boy she did not know, who was considerably bigger than her, ran by, grabbed the back of her hair, and snatched her up and out of the cafeteria table where she dropped down, banging her hair, and he ran off. She gave chase. The little boy gives her back her ribbon. The parent teacher and or teacher told the boy to go to the office and turn himself in for detention. Well, the boy never did. I found out about it several days later when I was doing her hair, and there was a quarter-sized plug taken out of her hair. I emailed this, I documented this to the administration at the school. We could never figure out who the boy was because he didn't turn himself in. We could never figure out who the administrator or the teacher was because they didn't say anything about it. But I have a child who had to change her hairstyle because she didn't want to be ripped up out of a chair and tumbled down across. Assaults, bullying, threats of death should not be happening. There is zero tolerance. There should be zero tolerance. Children who do these things, we pray for them. We pray for their families. We want them to get counseling. We want them to be mentored to be better people. I do not want these children to be just expelled from their particular junior high, elementary, or high school. They should be expelled from all North Shore schools because I don't want the kid from Timbercrest to wind up at my daughter's school next year. Girls with curly hair wear their hairs in different styles. There are Muslim girls who wear hijabs. Do we think that it's boys will be boys when they want to run by, rip their hair down, take their hijabs off? Do we tease, do we bully, do we threaten? And are they allowed to come back into school? No child is safe unless all children are safe. If we do not honor diversity, differences in hair, culture, the norm, then we are dishonoring the children. We intentionally chose to move to North Shore School District when we moved here out of state 6 months ago. I hope that was not a bad decision. My husband is a high-level corporate executive at a Fortune 100 company in this city. Do I now tell his peers when they're asking, where should we look? Should I tell them to look in Bellevue? Should I tell them to look at Redmond? Should I tell them to look, as I am now looking at the private school option? I invested in this community. I purchased a home. I am a taxpayer. But has my money been wasted if my child is not safe on a daily basis? You must act. You must pay attention. All of you should. You want nothing but your child to be safe. I want nothing but my child to be safe. You want your children to go to school and get a good education. I want my child to go to school to get a good education. I want nothing that your child does not want. You want nothing that my child does not want. Please demonstrate that by action. Thank you.
My name is Andy Coddington, and I had planned to talk to you about something that I read, but I'm just feeling compelled to share something else. My heart hurts as I listen to all these stories of pain that are being shared tonight. And I'm so sorry for the families who are hurting so desperately. My prayer for you as a school board is that your hearts are grieved by these stories as if they were stories of your own children. I hope that you own these stories and imagine your child in these positions, because this is not acceptable at all. I think this is a historic moment for the North Shore School District. You have the opportunity to truly embrace this thing that you're hearing over and over. No child is safe until every child is safe. I hope that I'm able to watch you make some good decisions that empower children and that show children are valuable. That's all I have to say.
Hello, my name is Ken Mason. I had some comments here that I wrote down, and I can't say goodbye now, so forgive me. I'll just say that I've been here since 2008, moved to the state of Washington from Detroit, Michigan. And since that time, I've done nothing but stand on the pedestal and talk about what a wonderful community we have here. That you can come to Washington and it's a colorblind place to live. There's just no, that's what I've experienced. But just recently, I think that I've been tricked. I think that I've been bamboozled based on what has happened thus far. I'm really feeling sick to my stomach right now. What I came expecting tonight is not what happened. I expected that there would be communication about a safety plan for all of the parents and then everybody that was interested. I found nothing. I thought that the agenda would have items about what's been going on, yet I find just mostly comments, and to find that very little to nothing has been going on thus far. I think it's imperative that everyone up here do something, and it needs to happen now. If I was in your seat, as soon as this meeting is over, I would find a boardroom and I would close the door and I would not come out until there was a solution that made the parents feel safe, and then I would kick them out. The urgency of this, it can't wait until tomorrow or next week until another memorandum comes out. You need to do something now. I don't feel safe. My child attends Bear Creek Elementary School, but he goes to Timbercrest on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for band. Well, he used to go to Timbercrest for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on band. After tonight, I don't feel comfortable doing that anymore. Why does it take bloodshed for us to act? Let's not wait until there's bloodshed for us to do something. We have an opportunity to do something before there is bloodshed. You hear the voices of the people. Don't pass it off to somebody else. It's not the police department's problem. It's not the advocate's problem. It's your problem. And that's what we're trying to say. We want you to do something.
That's good.
That's all I have. Thank you. No child is safe unless, I'm changing that. No child is safe unless he poses a threat to other children. After tonight, I feel that's the child is safe.
I'm Andrea Rowland, and I have 2 girls that go to Copley Elementary School. And the topic that I came to talk to you about tonight seems very insignificant after I have heard all of these things that I'm listening to this evening. What I first want to say is that I appreciate the school board accepting public comment. And I think that you are at a huge crossroads on this racial issue that is in front of you. I only have elementary school kids right now, and I've had no idea about all these things that have been going on. And I would hate to think that if you do not act quickly, severely, and with a no-tolerance policy for these racial issues, as many people have referred to, that a future meeting of this school board with people from the public will be asking you why you did not prevent a tragedy instead of acting before it happens. What happens if someone is hurt, killed, a group of students die, and instead of putting this district on the map in an academic or fantastic way, we get put on the map, this district, as another site of a horrible tragedy that could have been prevented. We do not want to be added to a list of schools where there was a shooting and the nation mourns for us, and people have died and suffered and been hurt, when right now, at this moment, standing here, you have the greatest opportunity to act. Mistakes are made. My mother and father told me my whole life, you will make lots and lots of mistakes, but it's how you act when those mistakes are made. What do you do after you have a mistake? And so far as I can tell, there's not been a mistake that is so tragic as to losing a life yet, and I apologize if I am not correct on that, but as far as I can tell, you could do something right now and not have this meeting occur where people are asking you, why couldn't you save my child's life? And why didn't you do something? The only thing I will say is that the issue I came to talk to you about has to do with boundary districting and where children will go to school, and I think it's extremely important. But from what I heard, I think all of you, I thank you for coming and making me aware of it. It is much more important than what I wanted to say. So I took my 3 minutes to say what my heart was telling me to.
Jack Bushman. Okay, I actually came with her. We have the same issue, so we were just chatting about it on the side. And I feel the same way. And the one thing that I do want to say is I've been in this community just about 2 years, and I'm part of that minority, part of the Hispanic family that lives here, and I am in shock pretty much right now with everything I've heard, because just like the gentleman before me said, I have been in awe at this community. I mean, we have loved this community. My kids have had great experiences here. And I feel like this is a little hamlet, like this is like a storybook. I mean, I've described it to people from where we came from another state. This is like a storybook community. It's so wonderful. And I can't even imagine that racism, I mean, I know it's everywhere and I know it does exist, but I just can't even imagine the things that I've heard today. And I just request that just do something, because it's so disheartening to feel like it's such a great community and it's such a disservice to so many, probably including you, so many wonderful people here that are tolerant and are not racist. And it's really disheartening to hear this and to think that all it takes is a couple of incidences, then this is the news or news travels, people share this information, and it completely taints our community. It makes it look like, next thing you know, it'll be like, oh, Woodinville, Bothell, Northshore area, they're a bunch of racists. And I don't believe that that's true. I really don't. I really feel from everything, from every interaction, people are so friendly. It's such a wonderful place to live. And I just feel like, don't ruin it. I mean, help to avoid issues from happening. Aside from everything that she said, which is so important, I just don't want to repeat what she says, but it is very important. But it's like, for whatever reasons you do it for, do something to keep this community intact. Because it's a shame. It's a shame that a few people that could be racist could ruin it for everybody else. And it's really unacceptable for those few people to treat the children that way. And it's something that sometimes it could even be, and I'll tell you the one thing that I did hear my son one time did tell me, that one child had made a comment, a racist comment. It wasn't even, I would say it was more insensitive as much as more than racist. But sometimes kids just goof around and they're playing, and maybe their parents, again, every family is different, but it's up to the schools to maybe kind of equalize that and maybe share that message that maybe the parents aren't always saying at home, and just to teach tolerance and to teach sensitivity and how to treat each other. So I think that these are things that could be educated in the schools, even from grade school. Again, we have never had any bad issues. I haven't even heard of any bad issues from my kids. So that's why I'm in shock, but I'm very disheartened, and I just hope that that's addressed. And as far as the boundary issue, I'm just going to go ahead and share with you some documentation that I have, and you can read it. And it has the questions stated on the document.
Sorry, I just wanted to, number one, I just want to find out a little more about what your timeline is, because this is that's number one. But my daughter is at Timbercrest Elementary. I had my daughter graduate from Woodinville High School, and she's doing very well in college. I think a lot of this is ignorance and violence. I think that's the basis of a lot of this. You have students, I don't know where they're coming from, to make comments like this and to make threats like this against African American students or any students of any race. But it starts somewhere, and it's ignorance and it's bias. I will also say it's happening in the school districts. It's happening at the schools. Sometimes it's microaggressions. Sometimes, you know, it's just ignorance. I've had one daughter who had a teacher in elementary school have a project where your ancestors came from. We don't know where our ancestors came from. We had European American students who could say, you know, their ancestors came from Germany and all these other places. My daughter could say, well, my ancestors may have come from this place in Africa. You know, teachers have to understand that. I have my youngest daughter came home, she was probably in 2nd grade, but she's very smart. The star of the week, who knows the star of the week? Wonderful little project, you know, wonderful little thing, oh, you get to put your baby picture up so everyone can guess who it is. Then she said, you know, well, of course they're gonna know who I am. As she was saying that, I'm emailing the teacher. Hey, is there something we can do to resolve this? Can we do this a little bit differently? No response. Emailed again, no response. Finally, I called her. And she said, oh yeah, I got it. But I didn't really see an issue. We have Asian kids, we have redhead kids. I didn't really see an issue. Now, number one is disrespectful, to not call me back. Number two, yes, it is an issue. I'm telling you as a parent, it's an issue. I have a brown child, only brown child in the school, one of very few brown children in the Northshore School District. Now, she changed it. She didn't tell me she did. My daughter came home to tell me they put all the clues up, and then after the kids guessed who it was, then they put the picture up. I'm going to venture to say that that teacher went back to her old ways after my daughter left her class the following year. I'm just going to guess that. It's ignorance, and I think the education needs to start from the top, from the superintendent to the administrators to the teachers. If you don't have the viewpoints and the experiences of every person that is in that school, if you don't understand it and you don't embrace it. It's not just diversity, it's inclusion. Diversity, you can say you have diversity. We have a lot of diversity in this room. But are you supporting that diversity? Do you have the resources in place to support it and make sure that every student feels safe? Now, I've met some of you here today. I'm going to say that we want transparency. We want to know a timeline, when this is going to be taken care of. I know it's uncomfortable. If it's too uncomfortable, I think it's time to make room for someone else. Which it seems to have been at Timbercrest Junior High, telling parents that this was blown out of proportion, that this has been exaggerated. No, it wasn't. I saw the screenshots. It was not blown out of proportion. If it's uncomfortable for the administrators to handle this, they need to make room for somebody else who can handle it. If it's uncomfortable for the teachers to talk about things in their class, to make sure it's a safe space, and to take care of these students, they need to make room for somebody else, and you all need to make sure that happens. What we want now is we want transparency. We appreciate that you all are going to discuss it, that you're going to be in touch. I'd like to know when and how it's going to happen, at least a first step, because we want to be a part of the process.
My name is Tony Esparza, and for some reason God in His great goodness gifted me to be a mom of 7 children. And I'm not sure why, but He also gifted me to be the mother of 7 children of all different races. And that's a gift I don't feel like I live up to most days, but I get to be a mother of a Puerto Rican child, a Saudi Arabian child, Mexican children, and African American children, and I feel so very blessed and so very humbled by that. So my heart has been hurting, and I have been weeping with you as I've heard your stories tonight, and not even sure how to know that you are here tonight with the very humble voices that you have had, because I'm not sure my voice would be yours tonight if I was you as a mom. I agree with every single solution you have suggested, so nothing I am about to say means I don't agree with your solutions. It means I have another one that I would like to put in front of you today. The solutions that I have heard suggested are solutions for when the train has already left the station. And when a train has left the station and it is wrecked, which is what I hear tonight, you have to resolve it. These are all reactive solutions of what you do when lives are in danger. But somehow there needs to be a solution to prevent the train wreck. And some of the solution that I would like to put in front of you is that you research the trauma-informed school movement. So there's a lot of reasons that racism happens, and I am by no means an expert on that, and I'm not going to pretend that I am. And
the one of them is sometimes when children have experienced trauma. It can also be to ignorance and bias, absolutely, and again, I'm not an expert, but there's a lot of research nationally on trauma-informed school movements, and a lot of the things that have been suggested tonight are for reactions at the junior high and high school level, but you have children in elementary schools, and this can happen at the elementary school level too, or children can start hurting children at the elementary school level, and that trauma becomes so escalated at the high school level that lives can be in danger. So if you would look at the national research that is going on how to help children that prevents them from continuing to hurt each other or hurt themselves, I think you would find some things that would be great in your schools. Thank you, Ben.
May I just close this out since I started this 2 weeks ago?
Did we miss anyone? I didn't see any other names on the list, I'm so sorry. So,
Oh,
I'm not talking about Mr. Cameron. She asked me if there were other names that I missed, and I was looking and didn't see another list, but yes, please, Mr.
Cameron. First of all, I was here 2 weeks ago and shared my story, which is very similar to the ones that here tonight. In that 2-week period, I was ignored, and I was maligned, and I was treated as if I didn't matter and that my children didn't matter. So I brought about 250 of my friends here to let you know. We expect changes to be made. What we've heard from the school district does not reflect the values of this community.
That's right.
If you cannot lead, then you need to step aside so that someone who cares about the values of this community can lead in this issue.